What's up, fellas? Time for Wake Up Mintzy. And we're starting today with a little more of a somber tone than usual. But first, before we get to that, we do want to thank our fine sponsors at Dude Wipes, cleaning up all messes you'll never need dry, crappy, scratchy toilet paper again. They also have all kinds of products like freshener, cleaner. They replace toilet paper. You can find them nationwide: Walmart, Amazon, Target, retail stores, online. Dude Wipes is everywhere. One use of Dude Wipes will change your life. Literally, use it once, you'll be like, man, where's this product been all my life? Also want to thank Stella Blue. I guess us in the Chicago, we just one of the best cups of coffee in the world. Big Cat, Great American. It's the only way to wake up and get your mind right is with Stella Blue coffee. All right, we're starting the show. Y'all can tell I'm probably not as energetic as normal because we're starting on a little bit somber tone. Our just like best friend of the show and one of our best friends at Barstool, Stu Feiner's dad passed away overnight, and loved Howie Feiner. Got to meet him a few times out at Stu's house and party. At his parties, Stu obviously loved his dad. I think everybody knew that followed Stu, how often he spent so much time with him. His dad made it to 87 and was dealing with a lot of health problems the last couple of years. But hug your loved ones. It's one of those things. Lived an incredible full life, left a great family, all that, but still very just sad day. We're thinking about Stu, and I'm praying for his family. And we had Stu on yesterday. Heck, I asked him about his dad yesterday. And it just apparently things started going downhill all day yesterday, and happened about 1 a.m. And just so sorry to hear that. Just heartfelt tribute and condolences to the Feiner family. Stu's my New York family in this company. I mean, I love Stu so much. I've gotten to know his sons and met his dad a couple times, and I'm just real sad today hearing that. And do love that he was able to make it to 87. Hell, I hope I make it to freaking 70. And to Stu and I actually talked to Stu before I got on the air. Just called him, told him, thinking about him. And I was like, man, at least he made it to 87. He's like, yeah, when I saw it him the last few years, I just hope I make it to 77, and that might be it. So, but I just want to say condolences with the Feiner family, and we'll be thinking about Stu's dad. And just sad way to start the show. Sorry, not energetic, but heartfelt tribute. Love Stu, love the Feiners. And so feeling their loss this morning. Having said all that, it's hard to, translate. The show must go on. This is show business after all. Joined by Tyler Moody, as always, from Louisiana. How are you, Mr. Moody?
Hey, good morning, Ben. Obviously, heavy heart for everybody today. Stu is just one of the nicest people, man. I know he's loud and he's brash and everything, but honestly, Stu is one of the nicest people that I've met when I've come to Chicago or New York, for that matter. I mean, Stu is a hell of a human being, and you hate to see that happen to anybody, especially somebody as great as Stu. So definitely, our prayers are with him, and we'll see Stu next Tuesday on Stu's Day.
Yeah, we will. And like I said, just sad deal. And 87, though, great life, Howie Feiner. So just wanted to start with a tribute to that. Now, having said all that, Stu, who we know the show goes on all the time, Moody, I've seen a lot of sports in my 40 years in life. And I've gone through, like anybody, we all go through heartbreak and exhilaration, all that. I've had some unbelievable highs and a lot of really low lows. We got to discuss this Lakers Pelicans playing game last night, because I am still so upset this morning. Just the way it all went down. And for those who didn't watch, so the NBA play-in started last night. The Lakers played the Pelicans in New Orleans. The winner goes to the playoffs to play the Nuggets. The loser plays the winner of the Warriors Kings, which we'll get to in a minute. It ended up being the Kings. So there's just so many layers to this. First of all, obviously most people hate the Lakers, but Pelicans fans really hate the Lakers because of the Anthony Davis stuff. Last night, this game goes down. The Lakers killed New Orleans on Sunday. So Pelicans were still a 1.5-point favorite, but not feeling that confident going in. Pelicans come out up 8 first quarter, playing great, like 34-26 at the end of the first, feeling good. Second quarter, total disaster. Down like 8 or 10 at the half, can't do anything. CJ McCollum couldn't hit the broadside of a barn last night. But there was one bright spot in silver lining, and it was Zion Williamson, after 5 freaking years, got drafted in 2019, has not played one postseason game in 5 years. We're not talking 1 year. We're not talking 2 years. We're talking 5 full years. Hell, I was 35 then. Now I'm 40. Proved to play his first postseason game. And you know what, Moody? He came out and he dropped his nuts on the Lakers' head. He threw up 40 with 11 or 12 rebounds. He was getting no help from any of the other Pelicans top guys. Brings them back from a 17-point deficit. Cuts it to like 6 going to the fourth. About 2.5 minutes left, I believe. The game is tied. And the place is rocking. People are going nuts. It's the Zion emergence we've been waiting on, all that. And then he's driving to the goal against Anthony Davis, and he pulls up with a non-contact injury and immediately waves like it has to go to the locker room with a tie game with 2.5 minutes left. I cannot imagine a more depressing but fitting outcome for what the Zion and Williamson era has been for the Pelicans. Because it's just constant. You see the upside. It's tantalizing. You're like, and then something always freaking happens, man. Always does. And D'Angelo Russell knocked down a big three with like 40 seconds left to put up the Lakers up 4. They end up winning by 4. The Lakers move on to play the Nuggets. I hate the freaking Lakers. And I'm sitting here this morning and I'm still floored. And I did a video right after. And Moody, I'm almost convinced the only analysis is that God hates the Pelicans. That's where I am with this. Because the torture, Zion finally loses 25 pounds. And just for him to go down in that spot, I don't know. I mean, it was just, I'm crushed. The Pelicans play the Kings. The Kings, by the way, the Kings beat the hell out of the Warriors last night. Beat them by like 20-something. So the Warriors are out. The Pelicans play the Kings Friday night at Smoothie King in New Orleans. Have not heard a Zion report yet. I thought it was like a quad or a hamstring, something like that. But they were real hush-hush about it in the locker room. I'm still looking for reports. If anybody knows them or in the chat, please let me know. But, I mean, did not look like something that he'd be back Friday from. And if he's out, who knows? I mean, it was just Moody. I know you've been through a lot of sports pain in your life, specifically the 11 World Series, the Rangers. But, I mean, you followed, you lived down in New Orleans with me. You've been to Pelicans games. This one really hurt. I know you feel that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of the perfect microcosm of everything that has transpired during the Zion era, and it sucks. You hate it for the Pels because the Pels feel like they deserve a run here with Zion. He's so freaking talented. You got Ingram there with him. I mean, this is an elite team. It really is. But they can't have everyone healthy at the same time. It's either Ingram's banged up, Zion's banged up, Trey Murphy's banged up. Like, they just cannot get everyone healthy and clicking at the right moment. And also the Lakers own them. I mean, let's just call it what it is, man. Anthony Davis and the Lakers flat out own the Pelicans. So the fact that this game was even close last night is actually a surprise, and that's just because Zion is that much of a dog.
Dude, he put his nut, like I said. I mean, just the Zion effort was unbelievable. And I mean, the comeback, and I was just going nuts in my den. And just right when he went down, my heart sank. And I was on Twitter bitching last night, and y'all know me. Y'all all know me. Like, I'm unrelentingly positive. I'm annoyingly positive, like to a fault. Like, I always am. I mean, even when the crappiest of situations, I'm trying to do some like mental gymnastics to find the good in something. But it's hard to find the good in anything on him getting hurt again, especially when you got to understand how long these fans have been waiting on him. And I've been supporting going to New Orleans games for, I mean, back Paul era. Like, I've been doing it so 15, 20 years now, supporting this New Orleans basketball thing. And it's not the biggest NBA market, and it's a hard place to win in the West. And I don't know. This one really, really hurt. And I really hope he'll be able to be back. We're about to be joined by our good friend Robbie Fox, former, he's still a big screaming honker, but a dozen champion friend of mine from season 1. Before we get to Robbie, a few things I want to touch on at Barstool Sports. First of all, Rough and Rowdy Friday night, all new fighters. We got new blood in here. We're going with all new fighters, ring girls, Dave Portnoy, Big Cat, the works. Order it on buyrnr.com. If you've never checked out Rough and Rowdy, it's one of our favorite things we do here. Beautiful ring girls, fights with no headgear. I mean, anything from women fighting to midget fighting to, I mean, it's just, there's nothing like Rough and Rowdy. It's so entertaining. I can't suggest enough. Check it out if you can. BuyRNR.com. That's Friday night. Tate and I are hosting a wing eating competition at the Barstool River North Bar on Sunday. They've got a jam fest all weekend too at Barstool River North in Chicago. Bunch of live music. Come out, check that out. Come see us. And then we're starting our Film Fest stuff today. And, we're going to be filming short films, making planning today, filming tomorrow. We've got like a big event for that late next week. So that's going to be super fun too. The teams are out. I'm on a team with Brandon Walker. Me and Brandon Walker trying to act together. Should be. I don't even know if we have to act. I think we can just be natural. We got Nick Taraney and Hank and Fastuli. We got a loaded team. So I'm excited to get into that. So a lot of positive stuff going on at Barstool. We're always super busy as always. We'll get to a little more NBA playing tonight. Heat 76ers should be fun. And then the Hawks at the Bulls is the late game. But with that, we're going to be joined by one of my favorite people at Barstool Sports. Man just crushes the fight game, and he's living like a hell of a dream too. I mean, he just goes, you think like this time of year, you always hear like Jim Nantz going from the Final Four to the Masters, but how about going from WrestleMania to UFC 300? I mean, that's pretty damn good where I'm sitting. And with that, we're joined by Robbie Fox. Robbie, welcome to Wake Up Mintzy. We're thrilled to have you. How are you doing this morning?
I'm thrilled to be here, Mintz. I'm thrilled. I can't wait. I was honored when you sent me the text and invited me. And yeah, I'm here. I'm here to wake up with you, Mintz. I'm honored for you to say that I'm one of your favorite people, Barstool, too. That's very nice.
So, Robbie, you wear a lot of hats. I want to get into first. We'll start with I mentioned Rough and Rowdy. I know you can't make it because I believe you have one of your best friend's weddings this weekend. You're always
going to a wedding.
Dave and Big Cat, but to Barstool fans, I mean, dude, Rough and Rowdy is one of my favorite things we do, and I know you've been part of it. Calling it. We got all new fighters Friday night. I believe it's very low, reasonable price on pay-per-view. BarnR.com. What makes Rough and Rowdy special to you?
Rough and Rowdy and Pup Punk are my two favorite things I get to do at Barstool. And I think it comes down to the live aspect. Like when you get to put on a production, a Barstool production, we do a ton of them here at the office, at the Chicago office. So much fun. But you kind of put it out and you're like, I hope people liked that. You're wishing for the best. When you do something in front of a live audience like Rough and Rowdy, and you hear the roars of the crowd, you hear them chanting for fighters that, have only had, say, 2 fights in their entire life, but both of them were on pay-per-view in front of an arena. And they, people know their personality from the pre-fight videos and all that. I think the live aspect of Rough and Rowdy sends it over the top. It's the only place where you can go have your first fight ever be like a pay-per-view main event, high production, sold out arena. It's crazy. It's the only place in the world where I feel like you can get that environment.
Yeah, that's Friday night, BarnR.com. Dave and Big Cat still on the call. And I know Dave's talking about this week, all new blood on the card. Got a bunch of new fighters.
Yep. It's going to be the first time, I believe, since Rough and Rowdy won, where every fighter on the card is 0-0. I believe maybe there's one fighter. I think there's specifically one guy who's 0-1, who's begging for a chance to come back. So I think we were like, all right, we'll give you a shot. But everyone else is 0-0. So it's like taking it back to the beginning again. Also going back to West Virginia, the home of Rough and Rowdy, which we love. And yeah, we'll find some new stars that hopefully can, go toe-to-toe, level with some of the fan favorites at Rough and Rowdy.
There's nothing that West Virginia, that vibe in that arena. I got to go. I've attended 2 Rough and Rowdies. I went to the Providence, Rhode Island one last December, and then I went to West Virginia in August. I don't know. It's a weird vibe in there. It's like a fun energy. It's just a total throwdown, high energy, like backwoods a little bit, I'd say. And I guess, is this one a Wheeling?
No, this one is I think it's like an hour south of Charlestown, I want to say.
But they love
Wheeling. Wheeling has the craziest environment because that's like the true home of Rough and Rowdy. That's when everyone that's in the arena is coming straight from their shift on the coal mine. And that's like one of my favorite places in the world to go to. They barely have cell service in Wheeling.
Well, check that out. BarnR.com. Friday night, Rough and Rowdy, all new fighters, ring girls. I promise you will be entertained if you haven't ever checked it out. It's one of our favorite things we do. All right, Robbie, you've been a super busy man. I guess let's start with UFC 300 because it's still so fresh. We've also got Tyler Moody producing, who follows MMA real close. He's actually involved with a minor league MMA promotion in Louisiana that I think I've mentioned to you before. Yep. Moody calls fights for me, AKA American Combat Alliance. So y'all have got that mutual. So much build up for the UFC 300 card. And then, I'm a casual fan, but like the Max Holloway knockout it seemed like an iconic all-timer.
Absolutely an all-timer. And going into UFC 300, Mintz, I said the one thing I want to happen more than anything on the entire card, any fighter, any fight, is for Max Holloway to win. I'm such a Max Holloway fan. I've been a Max Holloway fan for years. He's done plenty of interviews with us at Barstool. He's done video game tournaments with us at Barstool. He's made fun of Smitty for being bad at Fortnite. Like, he gets it. He's very much one of these guys who's in on Barstool, loves to support the brand. So I viewed this as almost a Barstool battle because Justin Gaethje, got to be honest, a bit of the opposite. He threatened to fight Dave not too long ago. So I was like, all right, this is kind of the Barstool battle. I need Max Holloway to win. And then for him to go in there, dominate the fight, he was pretty handily winning going into the 5th round. And then still to point down to the ground and say, let's go, meet me in the center of the octagon. I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to have a chance. We're just going to swing until one of us drops, one of us goes out on our shield. And then, yeah, it was 4 minutes, 59 seconds of the 5th round, the last possible second he could have got it. It was probably, I was telling the guys here, probably my favorite sports moment I've ever witnessed live. Like, obviously, I'll separate wrestling because that seems like a different thing. I shouldn't call that a sport. If you take all the Yankee games I've gone to, all the Ranger games I've gone to, Knicks games, Nets games, I've been to the Masters, UFC events, galore. Nothing compares to that knockout. The environment was just insane. People couldn't handle it. And then we had a great card other than that too, but it was just hard to focus on anything but that.
Well, I know you've been following UFC. So how long have you been following UFC? Because you've been the Barstool UFC guy. I mean, you've worked for Barstool now for what, I believe 7 or 8 years?
Yeah, I think October will be 8 years. I've been following UFC since Brock Lesnar made his debut. I think it might have been like UFC 89. It was Brock versus Frank Mir. And as such a big pro wrestling fan, when Brock was making his UFC debut, I was just so young. I knew wrestling was fake, but I was like, what do you mean he's going to fight for real? Like, I didn't even understand the concept of that. And Brock went in there. He like started dominating the fight. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Brock Lesnar is exactly who we thought he was going to be. And then he got submitted like out of nowhere. Frank Mir just grabbed his submission. Brock had to tap, and that sold me. I was like, oh my God, you could be losing a fight and just like grab a limb. And if you grab it the right way, you submit someone like that. I was in on UFC from there out.
So there was so much build up. Look, they have so many cards now. I mean, it seems like how many are they doing now? Is it one a week?
It's about one a week as far as cards. Pay-per-views are about one a month.
Okay. Well, UFC 300, obviously huge hype in Vegas. You felt like the overall card delivered? I mean, the atmosphere looked
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, from the first fight of the night, you had two former champions going. It was crazy. And some people complain about the card going in. I think it's because they didn't have like a marquee, say, McGregor level main event. It was Alex Pereira, who's one of the new emerging stars of the sport, versus Jamal Hill, another friend of Barstool. That was like, everyone knew it was going to be a great fight and a great striking matchup where someone was getting knocked out, but they don't have the Conor McGregor name value or the John Jones name value. So I feel like some people were maybe a little down on it because of that, but you shouldn't have been. After you saw the card, obviously they put together an amazing night.
Yeah. Moody, what did you think? I know you watched UFC 300. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest cards that I've ever seen. And I think what we saw, had Dana not come out and said, hey, we may do something that's never been done before. He really hyped up the UFC 300 main event. He floated to us that like GSP was going to come back or something absolutely massive. So whenever it ended up being Alex and Jamal highlighting the card, yeah, it's a great fight. It's an all-time fight, but it wasn't what people had built up in their mind. So I feel like that is where some of the letdown is from. But I mean, outside of that, dude, it was just banger after banger after banger. I mean, you had the debut of Kayla Harrison. It's kind of getting overshadowed.
Yep.
Bo Nickel looked incredible again. I mean, Armin surviving the guillotine from Charles was an all-time moment. I mean, it was just the entire card was loaded from start to finish. I mean, it truly was.
And then you got afterwards, Dana announced the return of Conor McGregor. He announced Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier, Louisiana guy, Mince. There you go.
Oh, yeah, Poirier is a legend.
He's going to be fighting in New Jersey at UFC 302, so I can't wait for that one.
So wait, so you just mentioned what's McGregor's plan coming back?
He will be fighting at UFC 303, the pay-per-view right after Poirier, in Vegas, June 29th. It's going to be International Fight Week. McGregor versus Chandler at 170. So that is going to be a massive card. They're going to build that up probably to, I don't know if it'll be a UFC 300 level card, but they'll try to get close.
Well, I'll say this, Robbie. I'm wrong about this because I thought that McGregor would never fight again. I thought he had made enough money. You know, he's Mr. Hollywood now. I thought he was going to ride off into the sunset because he doesn't have to come back. He truly doesn't have to
Mhm.
come back and put it on the line again. But the dude wants more glory. And if he's able to do it, it'll be one of the greatest comebacks in the history of sports, not just combat sports, but in
Yeah,
sports,
agreed.
because he doesn't have to do this. I mean, he's multimillionaire, legend of the game already. I got to give Connor some real credit for putting it on the line against a dog like Michael Chandler.
That's my point is like he could come back and he could face someone that's unranked and get a tune-up fight and he could get his glory. Oh, McGregor's back, whatever. He's going in there and fighting one of the hardest fighters in the division. Like he is jumping in head first. That's going to be an amazing fight.
So McGregor's back. Do you have expectations? Is he gonna have a chance in this, you think?
I think so. I don't know if the odds are out yet on it. They probably should be. It's a tough fight for him. Like I said, Michael Chandler is one of the hardest hitters, one of the hardest fights overall in the division because he's so well rounded. But McGregor has found success against like shorter wrestlers in the past. This fight being at 170, I think probably plays into his favor because he'll have less weight to cut. He'll probably enter the octagon a lot bigger than Chandler. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. We don't know what kind of McGregor is gonna enter the octagon years after the injury. It's been years since he's even stepped in the octagon, but yeah, I definitely think he's got a chance.
Yeah, did he fight the octagon again since the Floyd boxing fight?
Oh yeah, he's fought plenty of times since. He fought Poirier a couple times and he snapped his leg against Poirier, and that's why this whole layoff has been happening.
Okay, I remember that actually. I such a noob. So you've seen tons of live UFC? Like, was UFC 300 one of your favorite you've seen? Do you have any other particular like really fun memories?
The first time I went to a UFC at the Garden was up there, is UFC 217, and that was an amazing card. 3 title matches, 3 title changes. Rose Namajunas beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk. TJ Dillashaw beat Cody Garbrandt, and then George St. Pierre beat Michael Bisping. That was amazing. Some of the Conor cards I've been to really fun. Unfortunately, I've been to a lot of Conor cards where he lost, so that puts a real damper on it. But I would say overall as a card, this probably was my favorite card I've ever been to.
I do want to bring up just because we have a tie to it, and you were there. So our guy Matt Schnell, who's like Moody's childhood, one of his best friends, Robbie was at that crazy fight on Long Island that was just all time. I know Moody.
The morning fight, yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring that up. Moody, I know you still talk to Matt a good bit, right?
Yeah, I was with him actually Saturday night during UFC 300. We were doing a card for AKA, and we had the fights on while we were broadcasting the fights. So we were right there. I was with Schnell. Unfortunately, our boys lost his last couple. He's in danger of falling outside of the top 10. But, I mean, that was honestly one of the fights of the year, Robbie, going back a couple years
Oh,
now.
yeah. Absolutely. We still talk about that on Spinning Backfist because it was me, Av, Jack Mac. We all went to Long Island. It was like an 11 a.m. card. It was one of those ABC cards. So we were like just waking up, and Matt woke us up. That was like he was getting beat, but he had no quit in him. And he just came back, and one of the most miraculous comebacks I've ever seen in the UFC, to be honest.
Yeah, glad to hear Matt still doing it. And then Moody, you see you and Matt still y'all call all the AKA fight events together?
Yeah, so we do all the fights together, and we have Victoria Mason. She's also in the UFC. She's on the women's side. She's kind of working her way up. She broke her arm like a year ago, and she's kind of battling back through that, so she's trying to get back right. But that's who I'm doing with, Matt Schnell. And sometimes we have Matt Hughes, UFC Hall of Famer, legend, come in and do the show with us. So he'll come do a show every like 6 months or so. So that's been a lot of fun. I mean, Matt Hughes is the freaking man. He tried to liver punch me one night, and let me tell you, it's for real, bro. You do not want to be hit by Matt Hughes.
You don't want that.
I fucked around, and I was like, yeah, why not? Like, because he picked on me the whole night. He figured out that like I thought it was funny, and I would engage with him and shit. And so he was just like pinching me, punching me, just like beating my ass the whole night, basically. And finally, he was like, hey, you want to do a liver punch? And I was like, do one at like 50%. And he fucking rocked me. And let me tell you, it's not something you want is to be punched by a UFC legend like that.
I don't want that at 10%, let alone 50. Like I am messing with 10%. That's crazy. We had Jorge Masvidal in the office yesterday, actually. We did a Spinning Backfist interview. It'll be out later today. And since he's fighting Nate Diaz coming up, Large had him face off with Barstool Nate. He's like, Jorge versus Nate, Jorge versus Nate. And he really wanted to give Nate a body shot. And Nate was like, no, I would rather you not give me a body shot. What are you, crazy?
Yeah, you got to be a different animal to take some shots with some of these guys. Robbie, I just want to
Yeah.
say I think what you guys do with spinning back fist is incredible. I mean, I don't
Oh, thank you.
necessarily trust a lot of people's sports analysis at Barstool, but you are one of the people that I trust their analysis. Like you know what you're talking about. You're spot on a lot of times. I think Jack Mack does a really good job as well. I mean, I think you guys are doing Barstool a very legitimate service in your MMA coverage. So, cap off for that, brother.
I appreciate that. Jack Mack and Big Ev aren't like lifelong fans of the sport. They got into the sport, I want to say 2018, 2019 range, maybe Jack a little earlier. But they're so knowledgeable. Like they can remember fights way better than I can, where they could be like, oh, that fight was on this card and he faced so and so who pulled out early. The way their brains work, I guess it's just sports gambling brain, is really impressive to me. Sometimes the way that they could break down fights as, I don't want to say new fans of the sport, but like newer fans of the sport.
And y'all get a who's who of the UFC. You just mentioned. I mean, the interviews y'all are getting are just are a monster.
Yeah, the UFC is awesome with that too. And it's not just the UFC. Like, obviously, Jorge's not in the UFC right now. He's still under contract, but he's doing boxing fights and stuff. But the UFC has always been amazing for Barstool. They'll hit us up and say, so and so is coming through New York. Would you like him? And we always say yes.
Wake Up Mintzy, presented by Dude Wipes, cleaning up messes. And we're joined by Robbie Fox for the first time, talking some UFC 300. Also want to mention, you just went to WrestleMania and everybody, so this was WrestleMania 40. Like I was like a huge fan as a kid through high school, like DX era and Stone Cold and The Rock, and kind of fell out of it. Everybody said this was one of the best ones ever, especially the main event storyline. I saw The Rock out there and John Cena and The Undertaker. What was WrestleMania in Philadelphia like?
It was amazing. This was technically my 9th and 10th WrestleMania, but I would call it my 8th WrestleMania because now WrestleMania is the 2-night extravaganza. So I would say this is 2 nights I would count as one. So I've been to a lot of these. It was definitely one of the best I've ever experienced. Like, especially like you said, that main event on night 2, where you get The Rock coming back, you get John Cena coming back, you get The Undertaker coming back. It was a who's who of wrestling history, basically. That was unlike anything I've ever experienced in the crowd at a wrestling show. Because it was just like all of a sudden, you don't have the environment often where it's like anything can literally happen. The crowd is on their feet and we don't know whose music is going to hit. We know someone's music is going to hit. People were saying maybe Stone Cold was going to come out. That made The Undertaker even more of a surprise. It was crazy. Night 1 was a really fun show. Night 2 was amazing. Like night 2 was an all-time show. Night 1 was also freezing.
That's what I was going to say. It was in the 40s, right?
It was in the 40s. It felt like it was in the 30s. The wind never died down all night. Night 2, we had almost no wind. It was probably 15, 20 degrees warmer. I'm surprised they do WrestleMania outdoors still, to be honest. Like, I'm surprised they don't just exclusively stick to stadiums with domes. Because a few years ago in Tampa, they had to delay WrestleMania for like half hour, 45 minutes due to a storm, which obviously you don't want on their Super Bowl.
No. So what was just the atmosphere for WrestleMania? Sold out. Philadelphia, obviously Philadelphia known for rocking crowds. I mean, that had to just be electric, right?
It was a good city for it. I've been to tons of different cities for WrestleMania, and some cities are much better than others. Like sometimes when it's been at MetLife twice since 29. So twice in the last 11 years, it's been at MetLife. I gotta admit, New York is not a great WrestleMania city in terms of like everything is so spread out. Some shows are in New Jersey, some shows are in New York, some shows are in Brooklyn. City like Philly, everything was together. Everything was walking distance except the link itself. Everywhere you wanted to go, WWE World, the Wells Fargo Center, they're all right there. So New Orleans is actually like one of the best WrestleMania cities I've ever been to because you get Bourbon Street. It basically gets taken over by wrestling fans, and every bar is playing wrestling music and people are having fake matches in the middle of the street. Like, you need WrestleMania to be one of those kind of party cities, walking around parade type cities, and Philly delivered on that for sure. The only downside was the cold, honestly. Like when you do an East Coast WrestleMania early April, you're going to put up with that. But yeah, the crowd both nights, like it felt like night 1, the crowd was a little too like cold to really make noise. And then night 2, it was like, all right, we got something to prove because we didn't make enough noise last night. And then, yeah, having The Rock involved in WrestleMania like makes everything go up. It's like everything is bigger when The Rock is back. And then you play into the fact that Roman Reigns has held the title for 3 years. People have been waiting 3 years for someone to finally beat him, the underdog, good guy to finally beat him. For it to be Cody Rhodes, someone that is the ultimate babyface, the ultimate, like someone that's actually loved by the crowd inside and outside of the ring. For him to do it, and for him to do it in the fashion that he did it, like it was perfect. It felt like the Avengers Endgame, people were calling it. Like the perfect storyline, wrap a bow on it, and we're into the new era.
That's awesome. Well, so is that one like when you look back, what other that's one of your favorite WrestleMania moments and matches ever? What
Yeah.
other do you have any other ones that stand out through the years you make? It sounds like you've been to 9 or 8 to 10 WrestleManias. That's
I've been
awesome.
to a ton. Yeah. The first WrestleMania I ever went to, like, I'll never forget walking in and being like, oh my God, I'm here. Like, I dreamed of this my whole life. I'm finally here. And that one had a great match between The Undertaker and CM Punk. The first WrestleMania that my mom took me to was a couple years later. My mom realized I was such a big wrestling fan. I was watching WrestleMania 30, actually, and Daniel Bryan won in the main event in New Orleans. He's raising the titles, my favorite wrestler. I was so into it and so happy about WrestleMania 30 and just like over the moon that my mom said, I promise you, I'll take you to WrestleMania next year. I don't know where it is. I don't know how much it's going to cost, but we're going to figure that out. It's going to be a mom-son trip. And she was a woman of her word. She took me to Santa Clara and Levi Stadium the next year. That was an amazing experience because just like my mom isn't a wrestling fan. So to get to take my mom to NXT and the WWE Hall of Fame and SmackDown and WrestleMania and Raw the next Monday. It was such a cool, like, mother son trip for me to watch her experience all this and watch her chanting, "This is awesome," and all the random wrestling, songs and chants and stuff. That was really special. I went to one with Jared. That was really cool because we did the wrestling podcast, Jared Carabas, if you're not aware. We did the wrestling podcast for a while and we've been friends for years. So getting to go to that one. And then just a couple years ago, WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, one of my best friends, Kevin Owens, who's been in the WWE for, at this point, like 10 years, got to main event WrestleMania for the first time in his career against Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was the return of Stone Cold. And it was like, if you're a wrestling fan, especially if you're a wrestler, like say Kevin Owens, a modern day WWE superstar, Stone Cold was 99% chance your hero when you were growing up. So to see him get to like live out his dream, there was nothing better than that. And then Cody, another person like Cody Rhodes this year. I've known Cody for 8 years. I was trying to design Cody's gear when he was in WWE in 2016 before he left and started their competition and came back. So to like actually see the hard work and the journey pay off for these guys who I know behind the scenes, that's so special.
I want to ask more about your mom going to WrestleMania with you because I grew up a wrestling fan and my mom hated wrestling and she always hated that I watched it all the time. And
Yeah.
so your mom embraced it. She went to all the events. She was just like loving it. That's amazing. I wish my mom, if you're watching, you should have done this.
There's a reason why I named my podcast My Mom's Basement. My mom was the most supportive mother in the world, still is the most supportive mother in the world through Barstool stuff, all the stuff I'm doing now. She's so supportive about wrestling, actually, that she was okay with me going to wrestling school when I was in high school, Mintz.
Did
I
you really? I
first
didn't know that.
first summer, yeah, I went down to Rahway, New Jersey, and I trained to be a wrestler, and my mom would drive me because I didn't have a license yet. So she would drive me, she would watch grown men body slam me and like I was in pain and she was just like, I guess this is what he wants to do. At the end of that summer, I realized, oh, this ain't for me. I got this body type, I got pipe cleaners for arms. I was like, wrestling probably isn't for me. I should stay on the other side of the barricade. But yeah, the most supportive mother in the world.
So you went to wrestling school, you learned, I guess you're taking bumps and stuff. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, those things look like they hurt. Like you have to learn how to land exactly. And I know there's a lot more to it because everybody always talks about wrestling being choreographed and stuff, but like, man, that ain't no joke at
No,
all.
the cardio alone that you need to put on a wrestling match, like something you saw at WrestleMania, it's outrageous. You would show up to wrestling training, you do a lap around. It was like a high school gym, like it was a rec center. Do a lap around the court. You start doing burpees, do another lap, you start doing push-ups, you do another lap, you do a couple bumps, and you just repeat that process for like 15 minutes. My first few sessions, I was throwing up every single session. Eventually you get to the point where you're better, but even something as simple as running the ropes and bouncing off the ropes, you don't realize how painful that could be. My first few times running the ropes, you have rope bruises across your back, like just lines across your back where you're hitting the ropes. It's crazy. It really is. And I have like back issues and stuff like that going in, herniated disc going in. It wasn't the smartest move for me to start training to be a wrestler, but I thought it was my dream. I got to try it out, made a lot of friends in wrestling school, and I'm happy I did it. I don't regret doing it, but it was just so painful.
I would ask you, how did you get involved with Barstool 8 years ago? Because it seems like what makes this company so special is everybody kind of finds their own lane and finds their own niche. And you have truly found it with the UFC and the wrestling. And then obviously My Mom's Basement, your podcast with Clem's very, very successful. You're a big movie guy. You just kind of found and created your own lane. But how'd you get started with Barstool?
So I was a fan of Barstool from like a super young age because my brother's 12 years older than me. My sister's 9 years older than me. I have a bunch of older cousins. So they were always introducing me to stuff that was maybe a little beyond my age range. And my cousin Mark, actually one day at a family party barbecue, showed me Barstool. And he was like, don't tell your parents I'm showing you this, but I think you would think this site is hysterical. They just put up funny videos. They write funny things about them. Check it out. So from that like moment on, I think it was 13 years old.
Oh,
I
wow.
started I started applying literally. Like I found Dave's email, found Big Cat's email, found KFC's email, and started sending them shirt designs, sample podcasts. I started my own website in high school called thesquaredoctagon.com that was to cover wrestling and MMA. So I would send them sample blogs and all that. I heard back from Big Cat when I was 14. He just sent me an email that was like, hey, dude, we can't hire you. You're 14. And I viewed that as like my foot is in the door. They know who I
I
am.
know
They
who I
respond to
am.
me. Yeah, yeah. So I kept sending stuff to Dave. Eventually, one of my shirts got used when I was like 16. I sent a shirt design. It was for Tom Brady when I guess he got the suspension from Deflategate taken away. I designed a shirt that said Vindicated, and the I in Vindicated was the Lombardi trophy. And Dave used that. He sent me a check for like a couple $100 in high school. I was like, this is the greatest thing of all time.
Oh,
I have
I
gas
can't
money
imagine.
forever. Yeah, but I didn't want to cash the check because it was signed by Dave. I was like, oh my God, I got Dave Portnoy's autograph. Like I was so like over the moon about it. But yeah, when Barstool moved to New York, I have lived in Jersey my whole life, very close to New York, grew up. I waited till everyone did intern interviews. I waited to see who didn't get an intern. And then I sent an email to all of those people and said, hey, I'll work for free. I live very close to the city because I didn't think I could get an internship because I was going to community college. I thought everyone that was getting an internship would probably be going to like NYU or like, a fancy college. And Riggs was the one that responded. And Riggs was like, hey, like we're thinking about starting a golf podcast. I see that you know how to produce podcasts. I'll have you come in for an interview. Interviewed with Riggs about almost 8 years ago now in October, 8 years ago. And yeah, the rest is history. I knew nothing about golf going in, and Riggs at that time was not only doing golf, but he was like Barstool's political correspondent. Another topic I'm very ignorant about. I don't know a lot about politics, but I made it work. I faked it till I made it. And still to this day, one of the only golf courses I've ever been on my life was Augusta National on a 4-play trip, which really pisses people off.
And that just Scotty Scheffler just winning the Masters and winning Dave over $1 million. So how did you transition from producer of 4-play? Did you just start writing blogs? Like how did you switch into that and find your UFC and wrestling role?
Yeah, so I got hired by Riggs in October. I think it was of 2017, maybe. And by that December, I had been sending K Marco a bunch of blogs and being like, hey, nobody at Barstool was covering MMA at that point. There's no UFC coverage whatsoever. And I was like, hey, I'm a big fan. I would love the opportunity to write one blog a day. I remember that was my pitch. I was like, maybe one blog a day, whatever the biggest MMA story is, I'll keep it short and sweet. I'll make sure it's not controversial and not trying to get anyone canceled. And by like December, he was reading a bunch of them, was like, all right, we can do one blog a day. Let's start doing this. And I made a couple videos by January of like, I made a man on the street of me outside a UFC event, basically asking fans if they knew who I was. I was like, hey, do you know Robbie Fox? He's a big prospect. He's, coming up the ranks right now. He's a great fighter. And fans would just lie. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know who he is. I saw him fight on the regionals or something." And so that was like a funny little thing. And then I did a video with a fighter named Caitlin Chukagian, who's still in the UFC, and she submitted me 19 times in 4 minutes. And Dave liked that. He liked my blogs, and actually on that trip where we went to the Masters in April, he took me off foreplay. Dave took me out to like an early bird special lunch in Augusta, Georgia, and was like, "How would you feel if I just took you off foreplay and you just did content?" I was like, "That would be a dream come true. Like, I'll hit the ground running."
Dave always talks. He said recently, like, you're like the ideal Barstool employee. Dave loves you, and you, like you said, you found such a niche with UFC, and then it's the growth and popularity of it. It has just, I mean, it's been like a bomb exploding on society. How big it's gotten. So you really kind of found the perfect combo with it. And then you still write blogs. You do spinning back fists, the UFC Papa Jack Makadev. How long have you and Clem been doing My Mom's Basement now?
At this point, like since 2019, I think. So we've been doing it for like 4 years. It's crazy.
Damn. So yeah, you've got your hands at a lot of different things. So you got done with WrestleMania and UFC. What's coming up next for you?
I'm going to a wedding, unfortunately, so I'm going to miss Rough and Rowdy.
That's not
But I'll of course
unfortunate. It's
be at the
good to have
next
good
Rough and
friends.
Rowdy. It's good. No, it's great. It's
You
great.
in it?
No, I'm not. It's actually my girlfriend's friend, and she's in it. So it's like you gotta,
Yeah.
be
I
there
get it.
for it. But my next like big Barstool event, I think, is actually Pup Punk Chicago. Pup Punk's going on a little mini tour, and the first tour date is Chicago, May 31st. And I can't wait for that. We're gonna have you crowd surfing or
I'll
something
tell
if
you
you're
what
in
else is
town.
who else can't wait for that? This guy, and I'll tell you what
Let's
else.
go.
May 31st, my birthday.
Get out of here. The Mint's
Yeah,
birthday show. Look at that.
birthday show in Chicago. I was so pumped up.
Amazing.
Oh, and I already told PFT, so I would love to whatever I can do to be part.
Yeah. We'll get you up on stage for
Yeah,
sure. It's
little
going to be at Joe's on Weed. Yeah, if people are listening to this and they're in Chicago, buy tickets right now. The tickets are selling surprisingly fast. So make sure
Y'all
you get tickets
always
at
sell
Joe's on
though,
Weed.
man. I know it's like always a thing, but like, man, y'all get crowds.
You know what we usually do, but our crowds are usually like late arrivals. It's like hours before the show. We're like, oh my God, are people going to show up? And then they do show up, and we're very happy about that. We're very grateful for that. But this time, like, we put tickets on sale, and immediately it was like, all right, we're half sold out. And it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, people are actually excited to see us this time. So we're very excited about that. We're doing Chicago, and then in August, we're doing Columbus, Nashville, DC, and Philly. 4 cities along with Chicago that we've never done before. So it'll be fun to, see some new spots, get back in the lab with the boys. We're actually right now turning Erica's office into a little studio. So
Oh
that's going to be
wow,
fun too. Expect
that's
some more Pup Punk music. Yeah.
heck yeah. And then for people that hadn't seen Pup Punk, y'all do a lot. Y'all are fun. Y'all do a lot of covers. And who all?
Tons of covers.
Yeah, so it's you, PFT, Roan, Nick Hamilton, Frankie on drums, and then Caroline sings some too.
Exactly. Yeah. We're a 6-piece band at this point. So we're nice and versatile. Nick Hamilton's got the keys. He could play the synth. We could do girl songs, guy songs. We could do rap songs. We could do pop punk songs. We make non-pop punk songs into pop punk songs. And yeah, like Mint said, tons of covers. You're going to know 90% of the music we play going into the night. It's a bunch of sing-alongs. We do 2 or 3 originals. But yeah, we're just trying to have a good time, trying to make sure everyone's singing along, having a good time as well.
Yeah, y'all played some festivals recently, right? Didn't y'all play Ocean's Calling?
We did. That was the craziest experience ever. I wish we had more cameras. I wish we had like a Stool Scenes camera with us so everyone could have seen how crazy it was. There was like thousands of people in the crowd. We opened up Saturday, so it was like as the floodgates were opening, as people were coming in the gates, they were kind of just making their way to our stage because we were the only people playing at that time. And I guess because we were playing covers, so it's like, oh, I know that song. I'll walk over there. So the crowd just kept growing and growing and growing, and it was intimidating to play in front of that many people, but so much fun. And it was like weird but fun for me as well because Frankie couldn't make it. Frankie was on his honeymoon. So it was like bittersweet because it's like, oh, you want to be there with Frankie. But the replacement drummer we got is my childhood best friend, who was the drummer of my band in middle school. So it was like such a full circle moment for us to look back at the kit and see my best friend from, the time I was 10 years old playing with me. It was crazy.
What was your middle school band like?
Honestly, it was shockingly like Pup Punk. We played a lot of Pop Punk covers. We played more originals in the middle school band, but it was a female-fronted Pop Punk band. So we were very Paramore influenced. We did a lot of Battle of the Bands in Jersey. We were able to play the Stone Pony 3 times, which was, it's kind of a
Oh, that's
legendary Jersey
legendary.
venue. Yeah, we played Webster Hall twice in the city, and this is all before I was in 8th grade. So it was, yeah, really crazy.
Man, you've had quite a life. Well, one of the other things I always love talking about with you is you're also a fellow big live music fan. I know you also are very, very busy, as we've all just heard with your Barstool schedule and life. You see any good shows lately?
I actually did. I snuck in between WrestleMania and UFC 300. I went to the Brooklyn Paramount Theater, which is recently reopened. I don't know when it reopened. I think like in the last couple of months, they redid the entire venue. It's this beautiful cathedral type venue. It looks like a church when you're in there. Gorgeous though. And I saw Liam Gallagher and John Squire. So Liam Gallagher, frontman of Oasis, John
Yeah.
Squire, guitar player of the Stone Roses. They just released an album together, a collab album, and it's awesome. It's very Beatles bluesy influenced. And I'm a huge Oasis fan. I've never seen Liam Gallagher live. So this was a huge, like, first time bucket list check it off for me. He didn't do any Oasis songs. They just did the new album. And then they encored with Jumpin' Jack Flash, the Rolling
Oh
Stones
wow.
song. It was awesome though. Like, as such an Oasis fan, I've got Live Forever like tattooed on my collarbone. I'm such an Oasis nut. Just seeing him in the flesh was like, I felt like I was seeing a god. So that was an amazing show. Yeah. And there's a bunch of good shows coming up this summer. Foo Fighters, Blink 182, Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, all at Citi Field. I can't wait for the summer.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to see Foo Fighters on the Friday at Jazz Fest in a few weeks. Uh,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, I'm super pumped. They got Rolling Stones this Thursday. Jazz. I don't
I
think
got a friend that's going to for Stones. Yeah. One of my friends.
Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the Foo Fighters. But I know you love catching a lot live music. Robbie and I tech. That's one of the things that's funny. Our relationship, we like text each other. What's up with the shows thing? And living in New York, man, it's you get all of them. They all come through Chicago too. I've been really happy with the music scene here so far.
Yeah, you got a good bunch of good venues in Chicago. I might come out to Chicago at the end of July to go to a show at the Salt Shed. My
Yeah.
favorite band, All Time Low, is going to be out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say all time low. I was gonna mention all time low on there because I know like you have a ton of bands you like, but that's probably your favorite.
They're my number one. Yeah, they've always been my number one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, awesome. So it sounds like you got a big summer plan covering, continue to cover UFC, WrestleMania, going to a wedding. I mean, Robbie, you do it all, man. It's a lot of fun to follow. I really appreciate this. Is a lot of fun having you on Wake Up Mintzy and just hearing about your background. I mean, what was the name of the middle school band?
We were called Fixed at Zero.
Fixed at Zero.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that name?
It was the name of a song by another band. And like I didn't even know what it meant. I think it meant like you're running and running, but you're always fixed at zero. You're always like you can't get past that. You can't get over that hump, I guess. I don't know. It's a song by a band called Versa Emerge. Pretty good song.
Okay, what's funny, All Time Low is like one of my favorite Widespread Panic songs too, which is kind
Oh,
of
really?
yeah. But I
That
mean,
is funny.
the overtime info gets shared and stuff. Well, awesome. Well, so check out Spinning Back Fist, My Mom's Basement. Robbie still blogs. He's still at WrestleMania. He still goes to UFC. I mean, you're kind of everywhere all the time, which is
Everywhere all the
after
time.
my
Yeah.
own heart because I am too. And
Yeah.
it's the only way to live. But I want to thank Robbie Fox for joining us on Wake Up Mintzy for the first time. Got anything else you want to share?
No, just check out that Masvidal interview later today.
And yeah, check out that and buy Pup Punk tickets. I can't wait to be
That's
out
right.
there. Getting to be there on my birthday, seeing y'all at Joe's on Weed in Chicago. Big summer tour for Pup Punk. Robbie, thanks again for joining us and really, really enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Mintz. Have a good day.
Robbie Fox, a former big screen. Well, he's still a big screaming honker. We won the championship in the dozen, me, him, and Coley in year one. Moody, I know you're a big Bob Fox fan. That was great.
Yeah, Robbie's the man. He really is. He's a hell of a guy too. It seems like every time I see something from him, his energy is good. He's thoughtful. He's respectful. Just it seems like a dude that's really he's kind of got himself figured out, and he's stays in his own lane. You know what I mean? That's one thing that I haven't really seen any like ridiculous drama or anything around Robbie. Obviously, I don't pay enough attention, so maybe there is. But he just
No,
seems
there
like
isn't.
he just seems like a hell of a dude that everybody
No, there
knows.
isn't.
So
He
they seem
works
to like him.
hard.
Yeah.
He does a lot. Barstool, he does a lot of different stuff. Blogging, UFC, wrestling, like all the stuff we mentioned. And Dave. I mean, Dave said on Twitter, Robbie was like an ideal employee recently. I definitely Have not heard Dad say that about me before. That's for sure. Moody, as always, thanks. Shout out Dude Wipes for sponsoring us, cleaning up messes. I mean, amazing product. We're lucky to have them be part of Wake Up Mintzy, as well as Stella Blue Coffee. The big Stella Blue announcement. I almost said it earlier on the show, and I think it's out already, but I'm not going to say it because I'm so gun shy about spoiling stuff. But let's just say Stella Blue has an enormous sponsorship deal in the works. I can say that. I'm not going to say what it is. It might be out already. It might not. But for once, I'm not going to spoil it. So maybe we're growing, Moody. Maybe we're having some growth. We'll be back tomorrow on Wake Up Mintzy today. Looking forward to getting to work on the film crew team with Nick and Hank and Festouli and Walker. Once again, paying our respects to Howie Feiner. We're all thinking about Stu Feiner and his family. And thanks to Robbie Fox for joining us on Wake Up Mintzy. We'll be back tomorrow as we keep this train rolling. Let's keep building. And please follow us on Instagram and Twitter if you don't mind. So at Wake Up Mintzy on Instagram. We got to get that following up a little bigger. Y'all take it easy. What's up, fellas? As y'all know, it's been a hell of a messy year. And the only thing messier than my online history are my big old fat sweaty dumps. That's why this season, I only trust Dude Wipes to handle my Mississippi mud pies.
Oh, Mintzy, you're cooking now. Ooh!
When you're hot, you're hot.